think Dillon Gabriel's a legit good dude. I think he's a really good quarterback in the college game. And I think he's a tremendous success story of where he started at USC and then taking over 2 Power 4 programs in Oklahoma and Oregon and having the success he's had. I never, ever, 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 ever watched him and thought this is a pro quarterback. The second the Browns made him the 92nd pick in the draft, which a top 100 pick means the expectation is your ass is going to start in the NFL. The second they did that, they put an X on his back that need not be there. If he ends up being a starting quarterback, it'll be a miracle. Could he be an 8-year, 10-year backup in the NFL because he's of everything that I said previously, good guy, intangibles? Yes, he also fits a lot of the West Coast system. But I just continue to come back to, if Dillon had been the 5th rounder and Shedeur had been the 3rd rounder, I wouldn't have a problem with that draft. But the fact you took him with the late 3rd round pick, and if the best case scenario is he becomes a backup, you wasted that pick.
I wonder if I can tell you felt good about that one. Pew, 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 pew. So I do wonder though if you reversed it, if Shedeur had been taken in the 3rd round and Dillon had been taken in the 5th round, like you talked about, would we still be having the conversations about what happens with the 2 Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco heading into training camp?
Run that by me again.
So, like, right now, I think the consensus is whether it's training camp or whether it's right up to the beginning part of the season, it'll either be Flacco or Pickett. One of them gets to stay on the team, and it'll be the 2 other rookies beside that. If you flipped the spots where, let's say, Gabriel was taken where he was supposed to be taken, somewhere in the 6th or 7th round, or even be generous and give him the 5th round, and then Shedeur was taken in the 3rd round, is Dillon, in fact, the odd man out?
He's the odd man out now. If I'm going to spin it one further.
He's worth the same in that scenario. He's worth the same 5th round pick that Kenny Pickett currently is too.
So in that scenario, I think Shedeur would be the front runner for the starting job if he had been the 92nd pick. I'm not saying from their eyes. I'm saying for the fans' eyes and for everybody else's eyes. I think Shedeur would have been the front runner to be the starter.
Oh, so even over Flacco, over Pickett, the whole everything.
Yes, to me it would have been Flacco versus Shedeur, which in the end is what I think it might be.
It's amazing and stupid how we let the rounds, and by the way, Stefanski reiterated as often as he could that that's not going to matter, and we'll find out later if we think that's real or not. But it's amazing how we let that wrap ourselves into whether or not we think someone should start right away or not. So, like if he was taken instead of Schlesinger at what was that, 33?
Yeah.
If he was taken there instead, there wouldn't be a soul out there that's like, hey, no, he should wait. He should wait for the first 5-6 games. Let Flacco get the start and ease into the season. No one would speak that way.
This is where I think Kevin gets a little impish. Kevin loves to add to make definitive statements in like one way, which is, when you come in here, where you got drafted no longer matters, which I do think is true. I think the Browns, in terms of whether you're going to play big minutes or not, I still think it matters whether you make the roster or not because of Andrew Berry's proclivity for his own draft picks. But here's the thing that Kevin, it's like Kevin stopping the conversation or stopping the sentence at the wrong point, because I think if he continued to go on, if we're all being truthful, how those coaches feel about you, and it's not just a Browns thing, it's in the NFL. It might not matter where you were drafted, but how much they like you and how invested they are in you personally absolutely matters more than even draft position.
Okay, yeah, but I'm going to wonder if we're going to start seeing Stefanski's commentary on Dillon Gabriel maybe take a little bit of a backseat.
I don't know. I really think
I wonder.
I really think he loves
Zach,
Dillon.
If he looks like Zach was just talking about it, I wonder if he starts to retreat. Like maybe I spoke a little bit too high.
I really think Kevin likes Dillon. For them to take him at 92.
But does he like Dillon for what Dillon is right now, or does he like Dillon for what he thinks he can turn Dillon into? Because I think there's a difference there, and I'm convinced that he likes Dillon for what he thinks he can turn him into.
I mean, I think the point with Dillon is what can you turn him into? He's like 7-year NFL or college.
But I think that's the audacity of Stefanski attached with all of this, is that he thinks that he can turn him into something the same way Shanahan is able to turn all these kind of just less than quarterbacks into quarterbacks of merit.
I mean, let's just let cards on the table here.
Yeah,
the Browns will tell anyone who's listening. You don't really even have to listen that hard. They like Shedeur, but he's got a lot of work to clean up, right? They're not saying that same thing about Dillon. They know that he is the more pro-ready quarterback, which means it's much more damning if he can't beat out Dillon Gabriel, or if he can't beat out Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, than if Shedeur can't. Like the whole thing about Dillon is he's not a project. He is finished. He is probably at his ceiling and everyone can get a little bit better. I shouldn't say that, but like he's as NFL ready as you get given the experience in college. That's what makes this so wild because from a Browns fan perspective, if I like maybe Kenny Pickett would be maybe because we know Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, but Dillon Gabriel is exciting no one out there other than he's on the roster and you took him with a 3rd-round pick.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't think he's exciting anybody except for maybe Kevin Stefanski up until this point.
So I think from the fan perspective, Dillon is the forgotten man. No one's chanting, Gabriel guys, Gabriel guys.
Is that what we're going with, the Gabriel guys?
I think so, maybe. Now, that's different than a guy's guy. But maybe not too different.
Maybe not
you know
too
what
different.
I'm saying? Depending on your definition of guys.
Yeah, naturally.
But I do think he's a forgotten man for the Browns quarterback battle. And every time I think that, though, I just continue to get back to how excited Kevin was when they announced the Dillon Gabriel pick. I've never seen him that jubilant about anyone, and it's the most mid quarterback he really is. Like Dillon Gabriel to me is the personification of college good, pro, not even close to what
What's sad about it is that he should be the forgotten man, and I don't think that same way about Shador in the slightest bit. And obviously Shador is not the forgotten man, but like if you take everything into the equation, I think to myself, I'm like, Shador's got a real chance, Flacco's got a real chance, Pickett's got a real chance. And when it comes to Dillon, it's just kind of like he's there. And I'm not going to go to bat for him either.
Maybe we should expound on that. The reason why I would agree with you there is because of the physical traits, which, by the way, are what you're supposed to get drafted off of 90% of the time. The 10% is if you piss people off in the process, or maybe you have off the field issues or this, that, and the other. But like when I say Dillon Gabriel to me, and when Zach says he doesn't look like an NFL quarterback, we're talking about arm strength. We're talking about mobility. We're talking about size.
Doesn't this kind of speak more to the idea that they just kind of let Shador Sanders go to the 5th round and bypass them in the 3rd round because they saw something in Dillon that everybody else just doesn't?
Or they just really didn't want to take Shador because of whatever they saw in the pre-draft process. Like his skills, right? The abilities that he does, and toughness is one of them. Accuracy is one that people have touted of him. You've touted that as well.
Yeah.
That wasn't worth whatever they saw in the pre-draft process in Dillon, who, and again, I think Kevin likes.
But it makes it so dumb because eventually it was good enough.
Yes. Yeah, well,
like
okay.
Eventually
but isn't that the NFL draft?
No, well,
I'm not willing to take you with the number 2 pick, but I'll take you the 33rd pick. I'm not willing to take you 33rd, but I'll take you 92nd.
Yes, in a way it is, but I also think it's stupid if you're able to push all those things to the back and say, okay, I can live with this. And maybe Dillon is the part of the reason that freed him up to take him. Maybe that's another way of looking at it as well. Like, because we have a quarterback and maybe in their eyes when they took Shador Sanders, they could have said, if it doesn't work out 3 weeks later, we can just cut a quarterback, where you can't do that if you take him in the 3rd round.
216-474-0092. Is Dillon Gabriel the forgotten man in the Browns quarterback battle? Ed on the road. Welcome to the show, Ed on the road.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing very well. What you got for us?
Hey, I got something that like kind of crazy positive. Trying to be super positive for the Browns. Let's put Joe Flacco on the shelf. What if 2 of these 3 young guys come out to be very, very good quarterbacks? You know, the good starter, our dream starter, and a good backup. And the 3rd one looks fairly decent. Then we go into the season with maybe trading Flacco, maybe trading the 3rd guy out, and maybe putting Deshaun Watson, not in games, but practice to showcase him. And maybe we get a couple, between those 3, we get a couple decent draft picks. And we go to the next draft with 2 number 1s, not needing a quarterback, plus picking up a couple extras. Would that not be like the movie Draft Day nice?
All right, Ed. You gave us a lot to chew on here.
Did he, though?
One, the Deshaun one, I think, was the one that just will never you don't put a player in practice to showcase him. You'd put him in the games. And if the Browns put Deshaun, let's say what would be let's say they're 0-12. And Deshaun's ready to come off the IL.
0-12, and everyone else has been injured.
And you put Deshaun back out on the field. There's two outcomes. One, Deshaun goes 5-0 and showcases himself for somebody else. which would probably take it out of having the number 1 pick, which would make Browns fans hate him even more. Or 2,
you thought there was no way to hate that man more.
you go 0-5 and everybody's mad at you because you played Deshaun Watson again. I think if the Browns are being 100% honest, Joe Flacco being the odd man out on this quarterback battle would be the one they would choose if they could get something of substance for him on the trade market.
Yeah, because Joe Flacco's got no chance of being your quarterback after this season. That's the whole point with Joe Flacco. That's why I get so angry about the Joe Flacco conversation. Yes, he might look the best. Okay, fine. He does nothing in the way of helping or supporting you in the following years to come. Like, even if Kenny Pickett, even let's just say, looks average, I understand at the end of the season, then you'd have to pay him, so it opens up a new can of worms. But at least you got to find out what you could do with Kenny Pickett. With Joe Flacco, you're not answering any questions. But the 2 rookies, you get to really find out.
I mean, I can't. The 2 things that Joe Flacco accomplishes are he makes your fan base happy, and they're not right now.
But they're not going to be happy anyway when it's a 3-win season at the end of it.
But real quick, the second one, but if they win 10 games with Joe again, they'd be happy.
You think that's a realistic possibility?
I don't know.
You don't think that? You don't think that?
Well, okay, but my point is they think that.
Do you think, hold on, so we're treating like Joe Flacco. Remember like a year ago, we had a convo where it was like, you play Nick Chubb because it makes the fans happy. And I'll just be happy to see the 24 out there and that'll get people excited. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll buy into that. Joe Flacco played 5 games for the Browns 2 years ago.
Yep.
Like him playing 17 can't possibly bring that much joy and entertainment for people.
If he wins. And I think if you ask to a man,
if Kenny
Browns
Pickett won 10 games, they'd also be happy too.
Well, but I think my point is, like, I think Joe, if any quarterback here of the veterans is going to lead you to a 10-win season, I think it's Joe Flacco. I think Kenny Pickett's going to lead you to, at best, 5 or 6 wins. And that's if they play the full season. And I don't expect either guy to. I think my point is, though, if he gets you a winning record and or a playoff trip, that's more than just fan service. That being said, I think he's here mostly for fan service.
I think he's here mostly for fan service, too. It accomplishes nothing.
No, winning does accomplish something.
Winning does, yes, but we can put the winning thing attached to any one of these quarterbacks.
I think that's where where I stop short and where you and I part in terms of what we agree on.
Where are we the Red Sea here?
I've not completely
You've not ruled out a 10-win season
idea that
and a playoff trip with Joe Flacco?
That they could win more games than we expect.
This guy, a month ago, you said they're a competitive 3-win team.
And I still think they are.
And now Joe Flacco is the difference?
If Joe starts 17 games, they're not going 3-14. Because if they're on trajectory for a 3-win season, he gets benched far before 17 games. Fair?
Fair.